Hello friends and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to be making an ultimate guide to writing a killer personal statement. And I mean killer in the sense of like, it's gonna be a knockout blow, it's gonna be fantastic, not applying to be the next Ted Bundy. The following tips are all taken from my book. It's called The Universe. It is the ultimate university survival guide and I have poured my heart and soul into this book. I did loads of research, I used personal experience, I spoke to a lot of friends to create this ultimate personal statement guide, and so today I wanted to make that even more accessible by sharing it on youtube.com. So let's get cracking.
On tonight's program, ladies and gentlemen, we have something that's gonna make you sick.
Okay, so first and foremost, before you even start writing your personal statement, you need to think about what things have already been covered in your university application. So when you apply for university via UCAS, there are certain things you have to send each institution that you're applying to, and that includes a transcript of your grades, college references, and personal details. So that means you do not need to introduce your name or anything like that in your personal statement. You also don't need to talk about specific grades you have achieved because you'll just be repeating yourself. If you got a 9 in maths at GCSE, that's great. That's already on your application somewhere. You don't need to mention it in your personal statement. You're just wasting space. And space is limited, trust me. So we can't just be throwing that away, you know? Next up, let's talk about the academic versus non-academic split. How much of your personal statement should be about non-academic things? Now, when I was applying to top and Russell Group universities, I went to a lot of personal statement talks and almost all of them said the perfect split is around 70% academic, 30% personal. And what's meant by that is that this personal statement isn't an autobiography, it's an academic essay about your interests. If you're going for top universities and really competitive courses, then it's usually recommended that you change that split to 80-20. So in the 70 to 80% academic side, talk about the things that you're interested to research, the things that sparked your interest in the subject, interesting talks you've listened to, interesting books you've read, develop your ideas, make them sophisticated, prove that you are excited by the subject and you really want to learn more. And then later, when you get to your non-academic section, that's where you can bring up things like your silver Duke of Edinburgh award or the fact you were a prefect at school. However, my top tip would be to always link back these non-academic things to your degree. And it's really easy to do this. So when I was applying for an English Lit degree, I spoke about language and communication, and then I linked that to my non-academic things by talking about how my role as head boy required me to communicate in a very different way to my part-time job at Top Man. How the way I communicated with my teammates on the football team that I played for 10 years was different to the way that I communicated with the children at the library I volunteered at. And then I brought that all together and tied a little bow by linking back communication to English literature. So basically, make it cohesive as an essay. Don't just chuck these things in at the end. Make the lessons you learn from your extracurricular activities relevant to the degree you're hoping to study. Now, let's just rewind a little second there, and let's take it back to this academic section. How do you reference texts, and should you have actually read them? Spoiler alert, yes, you absolutely should. When I went for an interview at one of the universities that I applied to, the interviewer, halfway through the interview, pulled open a drawer, pulled out the book that I'd mentioned on my personal statement, put it in front of me, and asked me how it started. And trust me, if anyone knows these books inside out, it's the professors. They got smarticle particles. So if you haven't actually read the books that you reference, or you just regurgitate spark notes into your personal statement, that will be so blindingly obvious that even Stevie Wonder could see it. In a nutshell, absolutely read the text that you reference. Some ideas of things you could reference: newspaper articles, journal articles, lectures that people have given. TED Talks are especially useful for this because they're short and usually quite concise and easy to understand. A podcast episode, a song, a book, literally anything, as long as you can contextualize it and explain it and go deeper. One mistake I definitely made in my first draft of my personal statement was just essentially reeling off text that I thought sounded really intelligent that I had read. And it's not really about that, it's more about how detailed you can go. So say more about less. Your opinions, your independent thoughts, and your academic ability are way more important than how elevated the text you have read is. So yeah, definitely avoid just making your personal statement a big long list of all of the things that you think sound intelligent. And also remember, this is a no BS zone. Avoid hyperbole, avoid exaggeration. Don't say that you have always had a passion for biology since the moment you exited the womb, screaming only because you were so excited to be entering a world where you could one day study osmosis. Like, it's just not really true. For probably the first 5 years of your life, you couldn't even do up your own rain jacket. I don't think you gave a toss about animal and plant cells at that age. So instead of talking about how you've always had a passion for psychology or chemistry or physics, talk about the moment that you realized you were obsessed with this subject and what fascinated you so much about it. Also, one thing you could do, which isn't absolutely essential but could help you just in terms of structuring what you're writing, is linking the other subjects you are currently studying at A level to your degree. So for example, if you're doing history and politics but you're applying for an English degree, talk about historical fiction, political fiction, and how that links to English. Because I think that being able to identify a niche in the subject that maybe is something that you haven't had a chance to study at school before just proves that you are actively thinking about the subject, which, hey, that'll make you very good at doing a degree in it. Basically, one of the main points of the personal statement is to prove that you are personally very actively engaged in that subject, and that would make you suitable for studying it further and doing a degree in it. Because by the time you get to degree level, you have to eat, sleep, rave, repeat that subject. So they need to know you care about it. So there are some easy ways that you can start right now that prove you are an active researcher or actively engaged in that subject, because I get it. You may not have been so far. You may have chosen this subject out of a process of elimination, but now it's time to prove yourself and get into that course. Like I said before, listen to TED Talks. They're really concise and insightful. Think about doing an EPQ, an extended project qualification, alongside your A-levels, where basically you write an essay, because that proves you wanted to go out of your way to study this subject further and go outside of the curriculum to study it. Thirdly, you could start a blog or a podcast or a website where you talk about the subject. You don't have to share this with your friends. You don't ever have to publicize it to anyone aside from putting it on your personal statement. Set up an account on WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, and just share your ideas. It can be totally anonymous, no one has to know, but it will make you stand out. Also, school is intense, okay? GCSEs and A-levels take up pretty much all of your time, and so it is often hard to even find the time to do research outside of the curriculum, but utilize your teachers. Speak to subject-specific teachers who can guide you in the right direction to further reading that they think will interest you. When I was writing my personal statement, my A-level English teacher gave me about 6 books to go home and read that he thought would be useful and I would find interesting, and I referenced about 2 of them, I think, on the actual statement. And this will be very useful because your teacher will almost definitely have a degree in the subject that you are applying for. And finally, check out Google Scholar or JSTOR for loads and loads of articles. Okay, so we've got all of that, we're well equipped to start writing the personal statement. Now, how the hell do you write that first sentence? Unfortunately, there isn't really a simple, straightforward answer to this because your personal statement is personal. It's about you, it's about every single one being different. Some people choose to pose a question at the beginning of their personal statement, others choose to include a quote, and that's great as long as you keep referring back to that question or statement. If this really provocative, interesting quote or question is there right at the beginning and then you don't go on to discuss it in sophisticated detail, it's honestly going to make you look less clever. So if you are going to do that, just make sure your whole personal statement keeps linking back to the question or quote. There's really no formula for how to start the personal statement. Just make sure that you have a bold, strong opening that links the whole thing together. Just definitely don't start with, I have always had a passion for geography. Because you haven't. You have not always had a passion for geography. There was a time in your life where you didn't give a fuck. Okay, the final thing I wanted to talk about is not to expect your personal statement to be absolutely perfect straight away. This is a brand new style of essay which you have never written before, so don't be afraid to draft, redraft, scrap the whole thing, draft, redraft, and then get it right. When I finished the first draft of my personal statement, I just thought it sounded so clever, and then my teachers read it and ripped it to shreds. And I think the one that I finally submitted was probably redraft number 8, and it looked nothing like that first original draft, and it was better because of it. Accept criticism, don't be too defensive of this document, especially when teaching staff give you feedback. Keep on working at it, keep on improving it, and eventually you will get it to a point where it's a really, really competitive application. So, good luck, I guess. I hope this video is useful and makes the personal statement feel a little bit less intimidating, because it is quite a scary concept. And remember, this and so much more is all in the Universe, the ultimate survival guide for university. There's a whole section at the beginning on everything you need to know before you go to university. So open days, finding the perfect course for you, acing your A-levels, and so much more. So if you are looking at going to university, then, I mean, I would recommend it. For now, thank you so much for watching. I've been Jack Edwards. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed, subscribe for more from me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.